with some of the teachers and students over the years, and just excited to be a part of it. And thank you guys for considering us.
Also, I'm Sean A. Ward. I am the commercial liaison with eXp Realty with the brokers. I've been in real estate for almost 15 to 20 years, dealing with commercial for a little time now. Also dealt with, I'm also part of CCIM, which is one of your high ends of commercial certified institute managers. So I'm happy to be working with you all and partnering with you all and hoping for great success with this.
Did any of the committee have any questions for eXp Realty?
Yeah, I've got a few. Could you talk about your experience as a company selling distressed property?
So I've had I'll talk about my experience. Sean and I did a lot of, we actually were REO brokers for 12 years. So between Bank of America, we worked with Bank of America, Fannie Mae, HUD brokers. So very, very familiar with the process. Also homeowners. I have a certification in distressed properties. It's called a CPD. And so basically what I've spent over 12 years in that field, understanding how to analyze properties, understanding how to work with both the sellers as well as the buyers, being able to help us as sellers identify the proper buyer, making sure that we get through all the expectations as we need. So I've had very, very extensive work on both the corporate side as well as working with the clients themselves. So we understand the timelines, the time frames. We understand the sensitivity of the properties. We worked directly with property preservation companies, making sure that they were secured, as well as also working with your local municipalities, as well as the local police when needed. So we do have an extensive background. eXp as a whole also has a very extensive background. We actually have a REO division within the company itself, where we have lots of ongoing trainings to keep us up to speed with today's best practices.
Can you give me some examples of properties similar to some of our vacant school buildings that you've been involved in the sales of?
So we've worked with nonprofits. And so with those nonprofits, those have been warehouse buildings. And there's also been some residential as well. And so those would be some examples. Work with the nonprofit in this space. It's helping that nonprofit to make sure that they meet all of the criteria for the banks themselves when they're purchasing the property, allowing them to have their walkthrough. Some of the nonprofits have scopes of work that they need to do. So you're working with the different contractors and just helping to get all the assessments that they need to make sure that the property is going to work for them, as well as making sure that the offer price is going to work for the sellers as well.
And like, how would you market our properties and to whom? In other words, where would you be advertising them and what sorts of buyers would you be trying to reach out to?
Okay, so I'm going to start and then I'm going to let Sean finish up. So one of the things that we do I'm going to call it, I won't call it grassroots, but it is kind of a grassroots because it works really, really well. We have everything we do, we're going to start off with our different websites. So we will make sure that it's on our company website. We will also make sure that it's on all the commercial websites, which Sean can talk to you about that a little more. But then we also, from the years of doing this and from our eXp network, we have an extensive network of investors. We would also look at other nonprofits because, they're always buying buildings and institutions to help identify who our buyer is. And one of the things that we do very well is we have very, very great online marketing campaigns that we do, that we send out to those different constituents that property would fit for them. Once we have an opportunity to take a look at the property, we can determine if doing some sort of open house, where in that case, where we would specifically target those nonprofit, those other investor agents and investor buyers, to see whether or not an open house makes sense. If it doesn't, then our next step would be, now we get on the phones and we literally just start calling other agents, other nonprofit connections, and say, hey, this is what we have. Who do you know? And we'll send them all the specs. So when I say grassroots, that's what I mean. Just really, really the relationships that we have starting there, in addition to where we know everyone goes and searches for homes, which is they start on the internet and the web. So part of our marketing also will be to make sure that we have the best write-ups, in addition to making sure that we have good photos. All those things will be a part of making sure that we can position the property in a way that as we start reaching out to our different databases and then also getting leads from those databases, that we can have as much information possible to make sure that we're matching your buyer to your properties. John, I'll let you elaborate a little bit more on the.
I don't think she left anything on the bone for me. Basically,
Oh, sorry.
The same thing she said. We would look for the top users for that area. If there's no deed restrictions that you all may have to where you all are not willing to give to certain organizations or certain group of people, we will also look at that too as well. But most likely, we have CoStar, we have Dotloop, we also have Moody, we have different websites that we use. Also, our connections of 3,000 brokers, commercial brokers that we deal with on a daily basis, sending it out to them with the OMs, letting them know that we have these properties available. Also dealing with investors and also developers in those areas, dealing also with CDCs that's in that area, also economic development organizations. We will also reach out to them to see what interest they may have for those assets that we are trying to sell in a timely fashion. So those are some of the areas that we will really deal with. Also with CoStar, the great thing about CoStar that we use, that's nationwide. So our reach will be way beyond the Midwest region area as well. It'll be nationwide for companies that may be coming into the St. Louis region, looking for properties, nonprofit churches, places like that too as well.
I've got one more question. This sort of overlaps with the other questions, but so what would be your approach to selling a building that's been vacant for a long time and has structural damage, like say like the roof is gone? Like how do you find a buyer for a building like that?
Well, basically we like we said before. I mean, like, the question is overlapping, but at the same time, it's a great question, because dealing with I deal with the port of Granite City and also St. Louis Port. So we deal with a lot of properties that are in that situation, and so we will reach out to the developers in that area, and also the as-is buyers that are looking for those that type of asset as well. We would still advertise it just as the level as we would advertise anything else, but we also let them know the condition of the property too, and see those users that are willing to put some money into the investment to bring it back to its original state, or to make sure that the replacement value will grow in that too as well, to make sure that they're investing in the property for their usage.
And another thing I'll add, whether it has a roof or whatever it's missing, really what is going to help all of us is we're helping you guys to sell these properties. Pricing the property appropriate for the condition is going to be the key for us. And that's going to be the key for everyone, because we can do all of the marketing that we're telling you that we absolutely are going to do. But if we are not priced appropriately, like Sean just mentioned about the aftermarket value, all of that is going to be crucial for us to make sure that we're priced appropriately, so that when those particular buyers come in, that they have the ability to make the repairs based on what the aftermarket value will be, and you take that and you compare that to the current condition of the property. So that's going to be a strong component of us ensuring that we can get the correct buyer for you as quickly as possible. And not that we're trying to move fast, but when you're not priced appropriately, you lose time and you lose those potential buyers.
And also, we will also make sure that we are pulling the comps that is in that area throughout those areas to make sure that we are priced with competitively to where we are reaching those areas of pricing too as well. So I'm quite sure there are comps that will support our pricing, and we will also submit that to the board to let them know exactly where we at and to show the bottom and the high where we could be with that asset.
And then the other thing I'll say, depending on the structural damage, and again, I don't want to go too deep into that because again, I want everybody to remember we've been awarded, but we have not seen the properties. So there are some cases though where there are some structural damage issues that whenever you're dealing with the buyer, no matter who the buyer is, when they see something, they can believe that the damage is much more costly than what it actually is. And so if you have a report of properties that have structural damage outside of a roof, we don't really consider a roof to be structural damage unless when the roof came off, like maybe it ripped off a portion of the wall or caused something to bend in. But even in cases like that, we may suggest getting a structural engineer out for the board. So then in those cases, now we have documentation of what it's going to take. Along with that documentation, now we also have proper pricing. So we don't deal with someone that comes in and they're telling us something that may cost $50,000. They think it's going to cost $100,000. And then we either lose the buyer or we're so far apart in negotiations that things don't come together. So we will help you with making sure that we have the appropriate reports if needed for any of your buildings that have major structural damage.
And we know in some cases that some of our buildings probably will just have to be torn down. I mean, some of them are just so far gone that we won't think an investor probably would just, it'd be more conducive for them to tear it down and build something else up there. And in that case, what would be your selling point to them?
So again, we would then attack price, because we would have to consider because now you're more so talking about the building is not worth anything, but the land is. So what is the land value? Because we do have to keep in mind what the new construction cost would be. So we would give a price based on the land value and any other values that we can give you for the structure itself.
And then also, we will also tackle our more so developers that already know the pricing for replacement costs. And so when you're dealing with buildings that need to be disposed of at the same time, you would kind of gear towards developers who would take that land. They will also they would know the depreciation of the building. They would know what the cost of the land would be. So we'll approach those brokers. A lot of times when you're dealing with commercial brokers, they already go to the, if they're looking for a site to build something or to take over, those brokers already have their game plan in place to present it to the potential buyer to let them know what the cost would be or what the investment would be for them to tear down the building, to keep the land, and also to rebuild. A lot of times that's what we learned in CCIM. We learned how to present a package to a buyer to let them know this is your yield, which is your percentage you'll be getting, and also this is the product that you are able to produce on this property to know the better use for this property. So that's how we will tackle that too as well.
And this is Kim. I have a question. In terms of how would you involve the community in the basic selling of our buildings? We are hearing from our community that they are asking questions as if, how are some of the developers coming in or investors who want to buy our building, how are they allocating a percentage for low income housing? How are they using some of these buildings to support like the community centers? So how would you, respond or engage our community with the sale of buildings? And how would you negotiate with those investors and those developers to include some of the needs and responses and asks from our community?
Ooh, that's a go ahead, Sean. I'll let you start.
Well, dealing with the economic development organization that I deal with right now, we would definitely talk to those developers to see what usage they are bringing to the community, how many jobs they are bringing to the community, and what's the benefit of the community. So we will also, we know to make an announcement to the community that, hey, we have this potential buyer coming into the community. And if it takes us having a conversation with that community, we're more so willing to do that, because I encourage any developer I deal with, like when I work with Green Street, I would encourage them to talk to the community, to let them know their goals and what they're trying to bring to the community, and make sure the community is okay with that. There's been different times to where we had to deal with it, to where the community was talking against us doing a multi-family complex in a certain area, and we had to listen to the conversations of the community. So just making them aware of what's happening, making the developer let them know the importance of them being a part of the community, and also to see what jobs and what taxes they are bringing to the community as well.
And then if we know of any association meetings or different things like that, if we could go to something like that, that would be an option. But I will say this, if we are even with us doing all of that, if we're in communities that do not have associations or that have certain bylaws, and or as long as that developer is doing things that are proper for that property, as far as the different types of development that the city is going to allow, it is kind of hard for us to demand that a developer does something that the constituents of the city wants. We can highly encourage it, but that does now become a little more complex. And honestly, that is out of the scope of what we are hired to do.
But to that point also,
those things.
Right. And to that point also, we do one thing we didn't do is we also partner with the alderman or the representative in that area to let them know that we come into that community to list that property, and to find out how can we partner with them in that community as well.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. One more question I have for you. In your portfolio of management or selling real estate, do you have any current or previous school experience? And do you have experience selling in an urban district?
So we don't have any current schools that we have. And yes, we do have experience in selling in urban districts and in urban communities, period. So yes, ma'am, we sell all over St. Louis. And then I did not say this, but I will. My husband's been in education for 25 years. He's a principal currently. I do understand, just like Sean and Neil, we do all understand the importance of involving community, especially what our urban families and communities deal with when it comes to the disparities, the resources, all of that. So those are going to be things that we have already thought about, taking into consideration, and we will do everything that we need to do to ensure that we are positioning the properties in a way that will serve the communities to the best of our ability and go after attracting. That's one of the reasons why you heard us talk about the nonprofits, because those are some of the first places and the best places to go, because their interest first is for the community, opposed to some of our developers that are just looking to be able to make money off of and capitalize off of what they believe the building can do.
Now
So
we
that
also
would be
have
our approach and strategy.
Right. And we also have sold to churches that
Yeah.
purchase schools, and that schools was connected to the churches too as well.
Mhm. Yeah, like now we're currently dealing with another school in, it's not urban, but to Sean's point, we're dealing with another school right now, helping them to utilize their space that they have because it's a private school and their numbers are low. And so right now we're renting out space for them, and we're doing exactly what we're going to do for you all. We're working with the community. We're working with the local municipality to help them get some zoning changes and to make sure that we can offer as many opportunities as we can that won't infringe with, you know, the safety of the children with schools.
And then we also work with Venice School District in Illinois. We just moved them from one school to a brand new build that they have, and we was a part of that too with the economic development organization I'm with. We also helped them get funding, grant funding with that too as well, writing off as one of the St. Louis ports and also the Granite City port. So we have moved them from a location in Granite City that they were leasing as well, that was a school, into their school that they're going into now as of August 8th.
Be happy to jump in with questions if I'm not interrupting anybody.
Go ahead.
Seems good. Okay. Ms. West, I just wanted to actually ask you to talk a little bit more about that project you have with a different school where you're utilizing part of the space for other purposes. Could you talk us through that a little bit and how you see that relating to what might need to happen in the district, our district?
So a couple of things that's happening. So the school actually needs quite a bit of repair in several different places because it was a school, it's been a school for like 60 something years. So they have, we have a couple of buildings that actually need repair. And so we're looking for someone that doesn't mind doing some of the repairs for the building. We're currently, one of the spaces, we're currently working with a church that actually wants to rent out the space for their Sunday services. They're also going to be putting some office space inside of that. We're also looking at other options, such as they're trying to figure out, okay, can we put like one of those drop-in office spaces, because the school used to be a dormitory for a Catholic school at one point. And so we're looking at what would, like, if they put Wi-Fi throughout this area and put some desk in there, what would that look like? Because there's not a space in North County that has like those open office drop-in spots. We're also looking at what would a senior daycare look like in another portion of that space. So we have several different uses that we are working with them on to work through, because there's about 7 different places in the school itself that they're needing to be rented out.
Great. Thank you. And then just to make sure I heard you there correctly, you said the district or the school that you're working with is in North County?
It is. It is.
Is that right? Okay. I just want to make sure in the
Sure.
city could cause some problems for us. Few other questions here if you guys have the time.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Just a clarification. You told Dr. Johnson that you all don't work with any current school districts, but then it sounded like maybe you do work with one. So could you just explain the Venice School District relationship and whether that's a brokerage or not?
That's not a brokerage. That was an economic development that they had. They had hired me on to consult. Venice School District was leasing out a building while their building was being built, right there on the port's property, right in Granite City. And so they just got done with their building being built. And so I was brought on as a consultant with Dr. Glasper and their committee to make sure that all the things went through, the permits and things of that nature. So I was part of the whole transfer of them going to their newly built school from the old building that they were leasing out. So there's no brokerage conflict at all.
No, understood. So it sounds like you've done, in this case, a consultancy job for a school district, but there's not previous brokerage experience with the school district.
Exactly.
Great.
So,
Okay.
and I do want to kind of clarify this, because the brokerage experience and the consulting experience really are one and the same in a lot of ways. When you So one of the things I think that I want you guys to hear is we do understand the complexities of dealing in these different areas. So that's one. So you can see the experience. The next part of the brokerage part is we know very well how to go and find these different agents, because whether we're selling a school, whether we're working with a church, whether we're working with a single family, whether we're working with an investor out of state, the marketing strategies, you change those up based on what the client needs. But the management part of making sure that, do we have you priced appropriately based on giving you good comps? Do we make sure that you have all of the information that you need from us so that we have a great communication? Do we have all of the information from you? Are we updating you? Are we giving you feedback? Are we in front of the constituents that are interested? How do we handle ourselves when it comes to the public? Because we're representing you, the St. Louis Public School Board. So if someone's calling us, are we prompting our responses? All of that is a part of those brokerage services, even when it comes to you guys. Can we answer your questions? If we don't have an answer to your question, can we go and get it? Do we have the resources to be able to do those things? That's really what the brokerage services are going to be about, in addition to us showing you the other avenues that we've worked in.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Along the lines of that, so it sounds like you're making not a plea, I don't know what the right word is, but you're telling us, right, about your experiences that's similar to working with the school district. And so just wanted to ask some questions along the lines that of issues that the district faces specifically with real estate. So frequently interested buyers for properties in the district go through very lengthy and sometimes like multi-year and disparate tax credit processes to help fund their buying. Have you all worked with buyers that are in similar situations? And can you talk a little bit about maybe an example of that or your familiarity with those kind of processes?
So I have worked with tax credits before. I have not done a lot of extensive work with tax credits, but we have worked with those before. And we understand that you're going to have to go through the process to make sure that the property, if they're getting tax credits, that those fit and any of the inspections that are required. So I do have an overview of the understanding, but I will say this, there's probably going to be some intricacies that we will just have to, as we're going through the process, if someone wants to do tax credits, that we may have to get a little more information about that. But yes, Sean, have you done any tax credits?
Yes, we have done opportunity zones, and we also have done some TIF. Dealing with Green Street, we did some tax credits, and so leaning on our representative that we had, which was Gerard, we dealt with some tax credits when we had built a couple of multifamily complexes in the Grove area.
Great. Yeah, just to put a bit of a sharper point on it, we've had a couple of situations historically in the district where there's been a contract in place and a pending sale for many, many years while buyers await tax credits that may or may not end up actually coming. And so then, we've pulled a listing off the market, but we don't know if that buyer really actually is going to get the funding that they need. I'm just curious how you all would handle situations that are similar to that, because it obviously is not the best situation for our district to be in.
Okay.
Right, so go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you for clarifying it. So that's
Right.
a little different.
Right.
And so in a situation like that, our number one job is to vet that buyer for you. In a case like that, I would not, and I know the team, we would not encourage you to take on a buyer that's hoping to get tax credits, especially if those tax credits have to pass through some sort of law, or if they have not already gone through the process to make sure that they qualify for the tax credits. Also making sure that their contractors understand, making sure that they have the bids. So if we had a buyer like that, we would probably put in some very strict time frames and time guidelines by this day, by this time. And if they don't have it, we're going to make sure that we give you guys the out and the ability, one, to still continue to look at other buyers. There's ways that we can write up a contract and it's like, hey, it's contingent, but you
Right.
at the seller up on notice can give that particular buyer a 24-hour notice to firm up their contract, or you're going to move on. So yeah, we would absolutely not encourage or hold you up, and we would put strong contingencies within that contract that would protect you and always give you the best out of that contract as soon as we see it going south. And then the other thing that we would do, we would not just sit and wait for them to come back. We would proactively follow up. We would proactively have conversation. And then we would also keep you guys involved in not only the communication of it, but also in the decision making if we see things turning south. Sean?
Right. And also, you know, the LIT, letter of intent, we'll make sure that is done with also the letter of credit. But then also, we would not take, from a commercial side, you have more leeway than you have when it comes to residential. And so we wouldn't take that listing off of the website. We would keep it open, and we would make sure the brokers know that we are taking backup offers as well, just in case that do go south. We would try our best not to be in that situation to where we losing time, effort, money, and also losing the opportunity for that property being sold.
Yeah, I mean, that's all very, very helpful. Thank you. I know that oftentimes our buyers need those tax credits in order to move forward. So I'm not completely, dismissing their needs in terms of getting funding. But yes, I think there's certainly concerns, as I expressed, about when we're in situations where we feel like maybe we're being strung along for quite a long period of time. We want to avoid those, and it sounds like you all are responsive to that. I did want to ask, have you all worked with deed restrictions before? That's something that we have to deal with quite explicitly.
Yes. That was one of my questions for you all too, as well, to know what deed restrictions that you all do have, because I know with some deed restrictions that you all, some companies would not sell to certain like-minded companies and things of that nature. So that was one of my questions I had on my list about deed restrictions. So we pretty much know about deed restrictions as well.
I believe we have some around charter schools, although there were some changes in laws at the state level this year. I don't know if Attorney McLaughlin or Mr. Watson wants to speak to this.
The board itself removed the deed restriction to charter schools, and I don't have the year in front of me, but that was taken care of. So it's no longer on our properties.
Gotcha. Well, that's good to know. I will say that I would guess, I shouldn't say I know. I would guess that the board would very much be against selling schools to charter schools, or old buildings to charter schools. And so that's something we would want you to keep in mind, even if it's not in a deed restriction specifically.
So speaking of deed restrictions, since you brought that up with the deed restrictions, I just want to know, are you all dealing with any land leases or anything like that? Since you brought up deed restrictions, are you all dealing with any land leases that we have to be concerned about with these properties being sold as well?
I don't believe that we have that issue with any of the current properties that we are attempting to sell.
Okay, awesome.
And if there are, the only thing I'll say about deed restrictions, which I'm sure you guys know, any deed restrictions, we would have to follow the law on the letter on the deed restriction. And then that really becomes an issue of disclosure. So now it goes back to now we're disclosing that again up front. And then with that disclosure, that also helps us to identify buyers up front that would actually fit the criteria based on what's in that deed restriction, if there's any that apply.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
We've gotten some clarification on this, but just wanted to ask how much work you all have done in the city prior to this.
We sell a lot in the city. Like, I don't even know how to. So, I mean, I would probably have to go and pull our numbers. Our brokers, we sell all over St. Louis.
Right.
I worked in the city for probably 5 years, predominantly sold a lot in the city. So us working in the city is not a problem. We understand the city, we understand the neighborhoods. If I had to guess, I would say probably 25% of our business is done in the city.
Great, thank you. You all mentioned a certification around distressed properties. Is that the SFR or the CDP?
So I have both.
You have both. Okay, great. That's very, very good to hear. Because we certainly have that problem as board member Marston brought up. Dr. Ward, you said a couple times you work with an economic development agency. Could you clarify what you're referring to there?
The Port of Granite City. So we're right across the river. I work with them right across the river. We deal with industrial, land leases, railways, waterways, barges. We also partner with the St. Louis Port Authority too as well. So we're inland port authority on the Illinois side as well. So I deal with them quite often.
Great. And then I think last question for me. You've mentioned a relationship with Green Street a couple times.
That's a bad word to me.
It's a bit of a concern for me. Could you talk a little bit more about that relationship? And I'll just admit that that's a bit of a concern for me.
Yeah, that's a bad word for me too as well. So I was brought onto Green Street a few years ago, and I was there working inside I was part of the not part of the problem, but I got hurt by the situation with Green Street, if that makes sense, to
Yes.
where I was one of the people that got let go of when the writing was on the wall and they had to close and then bankrupt for $500 million. So
Right.
I was part of the damage, hurt real bad, being a part of it, thinking that that's where I was going to lay my hat and grow and deal with development and all that stuff. So it's not a good word with me. So when I hear it, I frown upon it at the same time. But it was an experience that helped me to learn and also what not to do when it comes to real estate.
I'm glad to hear the not to do there. I'll put it that way. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. So
every
thank
time
you.
I mention Green Street, people are like, okay, so trust me.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, I'll keep my comments to myself on that one.
Yeah,
But yeah, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for
exactly,
clarifying that.
exactly.
That's all my questions.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Ms. Henry?
That's all the business that I had for open session. Mr. Conover, did you have anything to add?
Yes, I'd like to. Well, I don't know if we need to make any motions regarding the real estate brokerage, but I would like to add or I guess make a motion around considering the proposal for the Millennium Hotel site development that we've been sent by SLDC and is being considered at the Board of Aldermen under Board Bill 39.
So
But I don't know if there's any more action we need to take on this at present.
So, Ms. Henry, is there anything we need to discuss on that? Let Key West go, and do we need to discuss anything on that today? To Mr. Conover's point?
Mr. Conover, would you like to discuss this in open or closed session?
Well, first, could we get clarity on whether or not we need to, we are being asked to consider any actions surrounding the real estate brokerage?
So the item for action was removed from the agenda.
Okay.
And it would definitely need to be added back to the agenda for the board to give their final vote on it.
So
Yes, just for clarity, it was removed from the full board's agenda or from the real estate committee agenda?
From the agenda that was introduced at the work session.
Oh, I understand. Okay. Yeah, I think they're looking for this committee to make a recommendation at some point. I don't know if Dr. Borshed, you want to weigh in here or not, but if that was the goal of this meeting or if you were expecting that at a later meeting.
first, do we need to dismiss Key West?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time and let us know if you guys have any additional questions. We're here to answer them.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, now that being said, did you have you want to mention to Dr. Borshed, Ben, Mr. Conover?
Yeah, I was just wondering if the desire was to for this committee to make a recommendation to the board at this time, or if that was something that was being asked of us in the future.
So this committee should make a recommendation to present to the board.
Sorry,
This
you
committee
cut
should-
out a little bit there.
This committee would make a recommendation to the board. This
Yes,
committee
yeah.
would make a recommendation to take to the board.
Understood. Yeah, and you're looking for that today?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's what I was trying to get clarity on. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, it was cutting out a little bit for me there for a second. Apologize for making you repeat yourself 3 times. Okay, so Chairman Hikes, is that something you want to make a motion on, or is that
Yes.
where are you at on that?
Yes, if that's something, because that's something we're gonna need to discuss. We can make a motion today to bring it to the full board, correct? Can't make a motion to approve anything today. We can make a motion to bring it to the full board.
Yes, we could
there could
make
be
a
a
motion
recommend-
to recommend to the full board
Correct.
that eXp Realty would be hired as our real estate broker.
No, we didn't need a motion for that. We need a motion to bring the millennial request to the full board.
No, sorry. I think that Mr. Marston's right that we have this committee. Has this committee made a recommendation on the real estate brokerage?
No.
No.
Is that something that I think that was the question from Dr. Borshade. Is that what we're being asked to do?
Okay, I was.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. So,
Okay.
Mr. Marston, I'm sorry. I
Go
might be
ahead.
having some internet issues over here. Is that, did you make the motion?
Yeah.
No, I was just sort of stating what the motion would be, but didn't make it.
No, that's
Um,
okay. That's what I thought, but I was just making sure I didn't miss it.
So if you don't mind, Ms. Marston, you can go ahead and make that motion.
I move to recommend to the full board that we hire eXp Realty, that we approve the contract with eXp Realty to be the real estate broker for the district. And I believe, actually, I don't know this. Is there a duration on the contract? Is it 2 years, maybe?
It's 1 year with a possibility of 2 additional renewals.
Okay, so it would be a contract for 1 year with the possibility of 2 1-year renewals.
Right.
Can I get a second?
Is that clear, Tiffany?
Yes.
Okay.
So can I get a second?
Second.
Anything on the question? Hearing none. Ms. Vaughn?
Ms. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson, Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Dr. Borchett. Yes. Mr. Conover,
No.
Mr. Marston,
Yes.
Mr. Heights.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I am losing power. Hold on for a minute. Ms. Henry?
Can you tell
Mr.
us
Conover.
what happened with the motion?
Ms. Vaughn said it's passed.
Thank you.
Was there any additional discussion about the Millennium Hotel and tax abatement?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody can hear me okay. I'm having trouble hearing some folks, especially at 8:01. Not you, Miss
Attorney
Henry. I can
McLaughlin
hear you
had
clearly.
I'm sorry, Mr. Conover. Attorney McLaughlin had a comment.
I'm
Oh, yeah,
not sure that there is an agenda item for the Millennium Hotel. I think we need to address that if there's going to be any discussion.
I was told by Ms. Henry that there were no agenda items for this meeting and that I could add it at the meeting, I think. Ms. Henry.
No, sir. I said that there weren't any agenda items for closed session. It is referenced on the notice, but there aren't any agenda items for closed session. So closed session was not noticed within 24 hours to discuss the Millennium Hotel. But it is your choice if you want to move into closed session and discuss that. But it was not noticed within 24 hours.
Okay, so just a couple things here. One, I definitely put in a request regarding this at some point, so I'm not sure what happened to that. But regardless of that, Attorney McLaughlin, I was hoping you could help clarify for us here if a matter like our position on a tax abatement, as it relates to Ordinance 71620 from the city, is something that we need to consider in closed session. I know this has been previously the advice from, I believe, SLDC when discussing the details of these proposals. But at this point, I think all we would be discussing is a publicly available proposal that was included with a board bill at the city.
I'm just saying that the agenda that I saw earlier today did not list any discussion other than the broker presentation. So unless there is a different agenda item than what we posted on the website, we didn't notice up that we would even be discussing the Millennium property or what is happening at the city with it. So it's a topic not noticed up.
Ms. Henry, how do you want to handle these in the future?
So I'd like to add to something that Attorney McLaughlin said. What's publicly available and what I shared with you are two different documents. What I shared with you is not publicly available. All of the details is different from what's available through SLDC for the board bill. So that's why I was erring on the side of caution to discuss that in closed session. But moving forward, everything that's presented from SLDC will be presented at the next meeting. We just haven't had a meeting yet to discuss the Millennium Hotel.
Yeah, I mean, we're on a bit of a timeline here because the Board of Aldermen is taking action on this presently. I mean, they already sent it to committee and it could easily come back to the board before our next real estate committee, which would put us in a bad position considering they're looking to us to make recommendations on these sorts of things. Is it correct that Attorney McLaughlin, I mean, you don't think that we should be discussing this at all right now, so I'm not really sure what to do here. I'm not sure how we've ended up in a position like this, but what do you think
I
we should
think
do?
if you wanted to schedule an emergency meeting or another committee meeting to discuss this topic, we could certainly do that. We just need to put it on the notice. We need to notice it up properly.
As was requested, yeah. Okay. Chairman Hikes, are you here with us? Sorry, I know you popped out for a second.
I'm just frozen, but I'm here.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Well, that's fine. Well, can I get a second?
Second.
Anything on the question? I have a question. So pertaining to the Millennium Hotel, Ms. Henry, are we in a situation where that if we don't vote on this or discuss this before our next meeting, will that put us in a bad position?
That is correct.
That will put us in a bad position?
As far as our position on the Millennium Hotel, yes, we can call a meeting for just that item, but it has to be a closed session meeting.
So I think,
Mr. Hikes, if I could jump in here.
go ahead.
I think right now the best thing for us to do is just to consider this as a full board at the next board meeting. Usually the process, as I understand it, at least previously, has gone that it went through real estate first. But this ultimately is a matter for the board to make a decision on. And because we're not going to have time, I don't think, unless we call an emergency meeting, which I've discussed is becoming a bit of a problem with the current way we're operating. I think we should just handle this at the board level on the 8th, and I'll talk to the president to make sure it's on the agenda.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Any more questions? None?
Hi, this is Kim. I'm just curious, what date was this proposal for the Millennium Hotel presented to the real estate committee?
It hasn't been presented to the committee yet. It was received on the 16th and we had a meeting on the 16th.
Right.
Okay, so we haven't had a chance as the real estate committee to actually review the proposal before it's going we make a recommendation to the board. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So when
But
we're
we're not making a
saying,
date and given to the board, if that's correct, Mr. Conover?
That would be my intent right now. Yes.
sorry, you broke up, Ms. Henry. Can you say that one more time?
Absolutely. The issue is being taken from the real estate committee and given to the full board for their discussion and approval.
Why is that?
I lose Mr. Conover.
Yeah, because of the timing. So unless we call another meeting during the process of considering this for the board, the timeline for the Board of Aldermen is moving at a pace where we'd have to call an emergency meeting for this committee in order to consider this. The date given for sending this to SLPS was the 13th, and I guess there was a meeting on the 16th where it was not considered. I was not on the committee at that time. But unless we call an emergency meeting, the Board of Education, who's going to ultimately be the one who makes the recommendation on this, won't have time before. It's possible that they won't have time before the Board of Aldermen would vote on the tax incentive package.
As a voting member, real estate committee member, I find it not following correct protocol not to allow the real estate committee to actually hear the proposal. So if we are going to follow protocol as we're doing with every single proposal, then we should, as a real estate committee, look at the proposal and at the very least, understand what we're voting on or we're passing or giving a recommendation to the board on. It should not surpass the real estate committee and go straight to the board without all the recommendation from the real estate committee. And please correct me if I'm wrong. That is the authority and the authority of the real estate committee is to review these proposals before they go to the board for approval. Is that correct?
That is correct, but this, to no fault of nobody on this committee, this happened. This is the city or the automatic committee throwing this in our face. So no fault of ours that this has happened. I just want to clarify that. Ms. Henry, as soon as she got it, she put it on, but it was just no fault of hers. So,
I'm not putting any fault, but I'm just saying protocol is that the real estate committee should be reviewing this before it goes to the board. We should have the opportunity, whether it's in regular meeting and or emergency meeting, to look at the proposal before it goes to the board and give a recommendation. That is our protocol. That is what this committee is set up to do. So if it's due to time constraints, I understand about it's already being voted on by the alderman. We should be having an emergency meeting to review that proposal before it goes to the board. I'm asking, is that correct protocol?
that would
Is there sorry, Chairman Hikes, is there a policy or procedure that applies to this that's being referenced?
Isn't that part of the real estate committee?
I'm asking. I don't know the answer.
I know. Ms. Bond and Ms. Henry, can you all?
That's the policy of the purpose of the real estate committee is to make a recommendation to the full board regarding all real estate issues, including tax abatement.
So that go ahead. Mr.
I just would love to get a copy of the policy that is being referenced here.
Okay, so that being said, I would, to satisfy everything going forward, I would say we would need to have an emergency meeting so we all have a chance to look at the situation and vote on it before our next meeting. And I can ask Ms. Henry to try to find a day that is conducive for everyone. If that is the motion of this committee.
Currently, we're in a motion to adjourn, so I'm not sure if we can consider that, depending on how this goes. Ms. Vaughn?
If you withdraw your motion.
I can't hear Ms. Vaughn, sorry.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, somebody's
Yeah, it's tough to. Sorry, Miss Vaughn. It's just tough to hear you. There's
some
robot-y voice.
Are you able to hear me better now?
Not really. Sorry.
What's going on with this? Okay, is that better?
hello, everybody back?
Let me go in here. I'm gonna,
I think Ms. Vaughn was going to make some clarifications about where we are in the process of current motions, but we're having difficulty hearing.
Yeah,
you.
we're back. I'm getting back noise. I don't know about you guys.
You said back noise?
I said noise in the background.
Oh, the volume in the robot T thing that happens sometimes on Zoom is what's making it difficult, at least on my end. I don't know if other folks are
Having
having.
Ms. Vaughn come over to the office, so
Great,
hopefully we
perfect.
should be able,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
okay.
Sorry,
Can you
Ms.
see-
Vaughn.
Okay. I don't know, my computer screen just went black. But for purposes of scheduling this meeting, do we know when the aldermen will be voting on this issue?
We know that it's in committee, and the next time that committee meets, they can make a recommendation to move that to the board. I don't have that committee date offhand, but I'm happy to get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
It's already been voted on, so it's the way it works is they did first round and then they sent it to committee. So it's already one step of the way towards potential passing.
Okay.
So okay, where are we at now? Are we?
I mean, I don't think we need to, and I'm happy to be corrected here. I don't think we need to make a motion to have a meeting right now. We were in the middle of a motion to adjourn. If folks do want to have another meeting, that's something that can be discussed outside of this meeting, I think. But
I can talk to Miss Henry, and we can go from there. How's that?
That sounds great. And Ms. Johnson, I hear your concern here. I'm very worried about the timeline here. We've not established great processes around dealing with Ordinance 71620. And that's something that we need to, I think, do as a real estate committee. Oftentimes we don't get the information. I'm sure Ms. Henry knows that all too well in a very timely manner from SLDC. But in order for the folks on the committee, for the Board of Aldermen, and for the Board of Aldermen in general to have the recommendation of ultimately the Board of Education, not this committee, regarding this issue. That was the reason I was hoping to move expediently. So I understand the concern, but that's where I'm at.
Well, I mean, we're a committee, right? So if this wants to go to a vote, I'm perfectly fine. I just wanted to make sure for the record that it is stated what my concern was as a real estate employee committee, not employee, real estate committee member.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Looking at
Thank
my
you.
boss, so I'm thinking employee. So, but I just
understand.
wanted
Thank
to
you.
make sure that's noted because of the extremity and importance and significance of this particular request.
Right.
We do know that we need to make sure that every protocol and process that we have in place to ensure the integrity of our real estate and especially talking about a tax abatement at that level, we should be able to have that real estate meeting, that emergency real estate meeting, to be able to at least have everyone come together and give their vote. But if the committee votes to, bypass the process and go straight to the Board of Education, I'm just wanting to voice my concern.
Yeah, just a couple things here. So, one, I'm genuinely curious if we do have policies and procedures related to the consideration of abatements, and it sounds like we do, according to Ms. Henry. So I would just love to see that documentation on that, so I know what the process is supposed to be. And then the only other clarification I would make here is that this is not about our real estate. So this isn't in relation to SLPS owned real estate or anything of that sort. It's related to a decision the city's making that would affect our tax revenue.
Right.
And so again, I'm not sure exactly what the policies and procedures said. I would love to get as clear as possible on what our procedures and policies should be here in relation to an ordinance that was passed over a year ago. That doesn't require us, but gives us the ability to make recommendations on tax abatement proposals from the city. So yeah, would love to get this process on the rails. Right now, I'm not sure how we've ended up in the situation we have exactly. Again, Mr. Hike says no fault of anybody's, but something we need to rectify.
Let's see, I had a question just about the real estate committee membership. I think I know the answer just from context clues, but is board member Conover a member of the real estate committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Because he wasn't on June 16th, and
Right.
I didn't know like when the change was made.
He called the president and got added. So that being, go ahead. Any more on the question?
No.
Ms. Vaughn?
Ms. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Dr. Borshay,
What are we voting on?
adjournment.
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Marston,
Yes.
Mr. Heights,
Yes.